and you are watching Love Stories. Good morning. As unlikely as it may sound, I have a part 3 to 10 words for our time. I didn't quite get done with all the commandments in the 10 commandments because I started talking about them. So, which is a good thing. I don't think it's a bad thing. And but I didn't plan on going to a part 3. But here we are, part 3. So in Exodus, again, chapter 20, and also in Deuteronomy chapter 5, starting in verse 6. But we're going to start in Exodus 20, verse 12. We're picking up where we left off. Honor your father and your mother so that you may live long in the land the Lord your God is giving you. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or his male or female servant, his ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. And then finally in verse 18, when the people saw the thunder and lightning and heard the trumpet and saw the mountain in smoke, they trembled with fear. They stayed at a distance and said to Moses, "Speak to us yourself and we will listen. But do not have God speak to us or we will die." Moses said to the people, "Do not be afraid. God has come to test you so that the fear of God will be with you to keep you from sinning." The people remained at a distance while Moses approached the thick darkness where God was. There's a lot to say in this last little chunk. But I'm going to stick to the commandments to begin with. So honor your father and your mother so that you may live long in the land the Lord your God is giving you. So this is a commandment with a promise. A lot of people say that. It's kind of an if-then. If you honor your father and mother, then you will live long in the land the Lord your God is giving you. It's kind of one follows the other type thing, cause and effect. So if you honor your parents, you'll live long in the land the Lord your God is giving you. Now, honor, I looked up the word just to see what was said on different levels. Honor, high respect, great esteem, to regard with respect. As a noun, honor, honesty, fairness, integrity in one's beliefs and actions. I kind of got to laugh because I think that there's not a great deal of this going on in our society today. What does it mean to be honest? Well, truth is relative, so maybe honesty is relative too. I don't know. But I don't think it's relative to God. Integrity in one's beliefs and actions, that means what you believe, you live out. You live out what you believe both ways, It also says showing esteem for one deserving of respect, attention, or obedience. And this is an important addendum here. It is the office or position of authority that receives honor. Now that's really important. Growing up, it was about people for me. I didn't know anything about, we recited the 10 Commandments once a year on Hanukkah. That's when my mom had this little tablet thing, it was a cardboard tablet. I can still see it in my mind's eye. It was like, white cardboard with kind of like black or blueprint, you know, each commandment, the short version of each commandment. And then it had this like pretty, you know, tissue paper framing thing at the end, you know, on either side of it, you know. And we would dutifully, you know, for Hanukkah, I don't know if it was before we lit the lights or after we lit the lights, we would recite the 10 commandments, you know, and of course, honor your father and mother was in there, but the promise wasn't in there. And what it meant to honor was like, you know, the person. It was all about the person. So if the person deserved honor, that was how I grew up. If the person deserved honor, then you'd honor them, okay? Then you'd treat them with respect. You know, although that was not my mother and father's version of honor. My mother and father's version of honor was, you know, elders got honored, period, even if they were jerks, okay? I'm just being honest, okay? So a lot of my family, you know, was expecting respect or honor or esteem simply because they were older and they were my family. And I did not grasp that concept very well because there were people in my family who acted like jerks. They were very insensitive and unkind and rude. You know, I can still remember my husband Michael and I was 9 months pregnant with Dusty, our firstborn, and we went to go see my aunt and uncle. They were living in Oceanside at the time. My aunt Zelda and Uncle Al. They were on my father's side. And my husband Michael, you know, he was a bit overweight at the time. And my aunt, she was like a big appearance person. My father's family was a lot about appearances, how you look. And I remember coming to the door with Michael, knocking, or, you know, doorbell or whatever. She opened the door and she looks Michael up and down and she looks me up and down and she says to Michael, these are like the first words out of her mouth, okay? You look more pregnant than she does, okay? And it's like, I was like, come on, I'm introducing you to the man I'm spending the rest of my life with. And that's the first thing you can say is, you look more pregnant than she does. I mean, it was just like, why would I have any respect for Aunt Zelda? Why? You know? I mean, I could go on about that. But I mean, you know, so to me, it was about people, right? But to my parents, it was about position. It was an old school idea that it was position. For me, my line of thinking was respect has to be earned. You know, and it was actually something I got from my mom because outside of family, because family was family, respect had to be earned with my mom. Okay, so I applied that to family because I didn't respect the family. But you think to yourself, how can you honor people who have violated you in some way or another, as some parents have done in our society, in the world? How do you honor parents who have completely neglected you, who never cared about you and never cared for you, who abandoned you? I mean, the list goes on and on and on. How do you honor them? Well, you honor them in terms of the office or position of authority. That's the thing that receives honor. How do you honor a pastor who is unkind or worse? You know, how do you honor somebody in a position of authority that you don't agree with, or worse? Okay, you honor the position. That's the deal. You honor the position. You respect that they were put in that position, and that's not an accident. It's not an accident. You know, I think sometimes people become parents because God is hoping in them, okay? He's bringing a blessing to them, in them, through them. He is in bringing a child to them, is bringing a window of hope to them, yet another reaching out to that soul of the parent. You know, we think a lot of ways about this, but I've come to think that maybe there is a great mercy when God brings a life into the world for the sake of the parents as well as the life. It's an invitation to change their lives, because parents have to totally change their lives when a baby comes into their world. It is heavy, you know. I don't know about you guys, but, you know, Mike and I were pretty selfish. You know, we were pretty selfish. We were believers and all, but we were pretty selfish when Dusty came into the world. It was like, oh, you know, we're doing our thing, you know, and Dusty came into our world, and it was like, that ain't going to fly now. That's not going to work. You know, you can't keep doing your thing just because you want to do your thing. Now there's another person, and this person is entirely reliant upon you. They're dependent upon you. You know, you can't just sign off and say, well, I'm no good at this. No. I remember my mom was no good at it. She read books and books and books and books so she could get better at it as a parent. And there were a lot of things my mom did wrong, but she learned as much as she could to be as good a mom as she knew how at that time to my sister, myself, and my brother. So you're respecting that God gave them to you as parents, however imperfect they are, however awful they were. And when you do that, when you go through that whole process of forgiveness and whatever it may cost to come to a place of honoring them, the promise applies. See, the promise then comes into play that it may go well with you, so that you may live long in the land the Lord your God is giving you. That's a pretty heavy thing. You shall not murder. That's such a laden word. Murder. To take away another person's life. This morning I was in front of Planned Parenthood, where I am most Wednesdays, either worshiping on my keyboard or walking around the premises and praying. There were a lot of cars this morning because on Wednesdays they do surgical abortions. And at this point, we've been doing it since November, and I see the faces of the people waiting in the cars for their friends or daughters or lovers. Some of them are very hard, and some of them are in a lot of pain. Last week when we were there and I was doing worship, there was a whole situation that was unfolding in front of me. The car had the back toward where I was doing worship, and on the sidewalk. They were in the parking lot. And the young woman was, back and forth with her mom. And I don't know whether it was her boyfriend or her brother, back and forth and back and forth. And then she went into the door to Planned Parenthood, and then she came back out again. And we're praying. We're praying and we're worshiping, and they're listening. I know they're listening. I know they're hearing the songs of mercy and the goodness and the kindness of God. But she goes back in. So then one of my friends went to give a piece of literature to the mom about post-abortion care. Because a lot of the women who go through the process of abortion begin to have regret, begin to feel pain about it. And so there are places where you can go to process this, to talk with others who have been through similar experience. And there's counseling, all of this for free. So while we were praying that she would make a different choice, still we care about the woman, not just the child, and ultimately not just the woman, but also the people who are in Planned Parenthood, who are enabling the procedures and counseling and administrative and all of that, because God loves those people, and He would that none would perish, that all would be saved. See, because this is life unto life, right? Not just the physical life. And this is more than an issue. This is about the people. He loves the people. So my friend was able to pray ultimately with this mother who was in a lot of distress, but wanted to be there for her daughter. The choice had to be hers. It's difficult because when the women leave, they're like, could see him in the passenger seat. The boyfriend is driving, or the mother or the friend or whoever in there. And you know that they know that this wasn't exactly what they thought it was. It was about life and death. It was about loss. It was the taking of a life. In this country, we do it without thinking. I remember one time standing in front of an abortion clinic, and a woman was going for her 6th abortion, and she thought nothing of it. It was just, her heart was so seared, so hardened. It was just the way that she knew how to take care of an unwanted pregnancy, was to take the life. I don't think she even thought about it that way. And I think that a lot of women don't think about it that way until they go through it. Because none of them are happy when they leave. Their faces aren't happy. So God tells us, you shall not murder, shall not take life. We're not the ones who have the right to take life. He tells us, you shall not commit adultery. You know, it's not simply, oh, okay, well, I'm married and I went and did it with somebody else. It's so much more than that. I had an old boyfriend for a long time, and we were very close, and I thought originally we might get married, and then I met Michael, and that was it for me, But I still liked talking to my old boyfriend because we talked about all kinds of things that I was very interested in. And Michael was a big baseball nut. I mean, he just loved baseball. And of course, I was not a fan. I mean, not really a fan. I was a big Red Sox person, And so I would, and it was okay with Michael. He wasn't jealous or anything, So I would go talk to, my old boyfriend. Sometimes we'd go have lunch, or sometimes Michael would come, but a lot of times Michael didn't come because we were talking about things that Michael wasn't interested in. And I was still in many ways very young in the Lord. There were a lot of things I didn't understand, and I had my own thinking about, my own brand of morality. And my brand of morality said, well, my old loves can still be my friends. Why can't we be friends? I mean, and one day, God spoke to my heart. And my old boyfriend had become a believer before even I did, and spoke to his heart as well. But when he spoke to my heart, It was like you are taking time and intimacy away from the man you promised yourself to and giving it to another. I was like, that's so not my thinking. God, I wouldn't hurt Michael. I just want to spend some time with somebody I can have a conversation about things that I like to talk about obsessively, like Michael likes to talk about baseball obsessively. And it's like, you're not giving him a chance to talk with you about those things. You're taking that conversation to an old love. And we both realized it at the same time. And we stopped. I haven't seen him since. Adultery, it robs the marriage, adultery in any form, robs the marriage of the chance to grow richer and deeper and fuller and into the fullness that God has for it. When he says, do not commit adultery, it's as Jesus said so much more. Don't open a place where the enemy can come in and rob from your marriage the beauty and the power and the richness that God intended. You shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. Don't lie. Don't lie. I mean, who is your neighbor? Really, it's so much broader than that. Don't be somebody who lies. Don't be somebody who can't be counted on to have integrity, to be honest, to say what you mean and mean what you say, to tell the truth, to be a person who is a truth speaker. It hurts us when we do it, and it hurts the people that we're lying about. And lastly, it says, you shall not covet your neighbor's house, you shall not covet your neighbor's wife, you shall not covet, right? What does covet mean? Covet's an old word, right? To desire what belongs to another inordinately. To have a wrongful desire. It doesn't mean you don't admire, this guy's got a boat. Or, I admire people who have houses by the beach, okay? I mean, it really verges on a bit of coveting and lust, and I have to kind of like turn my heart away and go, okay, if you have that for me, God, I'd really, really like that. But, I have to let it go. I have to let it go because, I have to trust God to provide for me what is really what he has for me. And if he has the desert for me, please no, I am not a desert fan. But, if he has the desert for me, well, then that'll be a beautiful place. I know that's true. I know that he can meet me in the desert. But would I prefer the ocean? Yes. Would I prefer Cape Cod? Yes. Do I sometimes start to lust for those places? Well, yeah. And then I have to kind of go back and say, okay, you know what? Whatever you want, God, whatever you decide. You know me, you know my wiring, you know my heart's desires, you know what's best for me. And so I have to trust you for that, It says to covet something is to look for satisfaction from the thing itself. The kind of satisfaction from the thing itself that belongs to the Creator. Okay? It's like, okay, I want this so bad, it becomes like a god or an idol to me. Okay, that I want it so bad. And it obscures it obscures the relationship we have with the Lord. It hinders it, I should say, really. So instead of looking to God for him to meet my needs and satisfy me, it's like, this house will meet all my needs. This house is everything to me, my entire world. It becomes, or this car, or, whatever it is, And so he tells us not to covet. really to look to him and bring our desires to him, And the thing about this is that, when the people, what grieves me most of all about this is when the people stood on Sinai and God spoke the 10 commandments, the Decalogue, to them, okay? They were so freaked out. They sent Moses to go be there with God because they didn't want to be near God because it was scary. It says in Deuteronomy 5, I'm just going to read this to you real quick if I can. It's heavy. These are the commandments the Lord proclaimed in a loud voice to your whole assembly there on the mountain from out of the fire, the cloud, and the deep darkness. And he added nothing more. Then he wrote them on 2 stone tablets and gave them to me. Moses is speaking. When you heard the voice out of the darkness while the mountain was ablaze with fire, all the leaders of your tribes and your elders came to me, and you said, the Lord our God has shown us his glory and his majesty, and we have heard his voice from the fire. Today we have seen that a person can live even if God speaks with them. But now why should we die? Now why did they say that? It's like, okay, so you saw that a person can live even if God speaks to them, but you immediately say, why should we die? Do you think he's going to let you die if he is speaking to you and you haven't died yet? But now why should we die? The great fire will consume us and we will die if we hear the voice of the Lord our God any longer. For what mortal has heard the voice of the living God speaking out of the fire as we have and survived? Go near and listen to all that the Lord our God says. Then tell us whatever the Lord our God tells you, we will listen and obey. So hard, because secondhand is never good as firsthand. And the person who receives the vision is the person who most understands how to proceed, is responsible for the vision. If they had stood there and absorbed all the words that God wanted to speak to them, perhaps it would have ended up quite differently. But we as a people said, you go, Moses, and you tell us what he said. And the ability to obey those commandments was not in us. Something to think about. And so now, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. This is Sally Klein O'Connor, and you've been watching Love Stories. Shalom.